was this hidden secret of this horrible situation that had happened in a small town.
I am so sorry.
People would go on dates to go see the Blair Witch Project, in which their girlfriend would vomit or run out the door very quickly.
Mike, where you going?
It was new, it was fresh, it was great filmmaking.
At the height of the internet boom in 1999, a movie with no stars and virtually no budget used the web to build the most explosive word of mouth in Hollywood history.
There should have been an award for the marketing of the Blair Witch Project because it was genius.
Someone gave me a bootleg of it and said, oh my God, this is like the last, thing that these guys shot.
How the Blair Witch Project transformed the way people make, market, and think about movies.
A low-budget thriller took the nation by storm over the weekend.
Shook the Hollywood star system.
This is my home.
Okay.
And ushered in the reality television revolution.
The kids took over the kingdom for a second and broke all the rules.
The Blair Witch Project, up next on Movies That Shook the World.
I wanted her to wipe her nose. That's what I wanted her to do.
Hollywood spends $10 billion a year making movies. Some hit, some miss, some shake the world.
Oh my God, what the is that? What the is that?
In the summer of 1999, the Blair Witch Project shocked moviegoers and Hollywood insiders like no horror film in history.
What's your take on the Blair Witch at this point? Do you think she exists?
I don't know.
We weren't sure what to expect. You don't know if it's true or not.
I was completely devastated by it.
The fact that they were passing this off as like a real student experiment, I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeehaw! Well, we have shot the first scene.
It was truly unlike anything that had ever been seen.
This is my home,
Okay. Ah.
which I am leaving the comforts of for the weekend to explore the Blair Witch.
The two young creators of this low-tech landmark, Eduardo Sanchez and Daniel Myrick, met at film school in the 90s. Like many of their generation, both had experimented with video cameras since they were kids.
The video revolution came around. I bought myself a video camera, or my mom did anyway, and started experimenting.
Miami Vice was like huge back then, so all of my first films are just basically like Miami Vice rip-offs.
When they graduated from film school in the mid-90s, they wanted to make a feature film, but they barely had $20 to their name.
Manufacturers can make camcorders this small thanks to the revolutionary new Hi8 video format.
Luckily for them, the cheap cameras that sprang from the consumer electronics revolution of the 90s gave them a chance.
The rise in the quality of consumer technology has really helped a lot of people make movies that probably previously never could have gotten their hands on the equipment.
I think the great thing that digital cameras did for filmmaking is that it suddenly started to level the playing field.
Myrick and Sanchez seized on this new technology to craft a new kind of horror film. Using their poverty to their advantage, they made a movie that looked and felt utterly different than anything Hollywood was making at the time.
They were spectacles and over-the-top action fests, but they weren't really scaring people, and I just missed being really scared.
What Hollywood did, they started getting into slasher. All in out bloodbaths. You would see the killing. There was no imagination.
The two filmmakers decided to create a modern-day version of the pseudo-documentaries that had spooked them as kids, like Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of and The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Legend of Boggy Creek scared the shit out of me when I watched it. I'll never forget that kind of opening shot of going down the bayou, and that slow camera move through the creek. It was just one of the creepiest things in the world.
They developed their own mockumentary by creating a modern myth, the legend of the Blair Witch.
Now, the creepiest story about her that I ever heard was the two men were out hunting, and they were camped near the cabin or something that she's supposed to haunt. No. And they disappeared off the face of the earth.
Working on a shoestring budget, Myrick and Sanchez were forced to cast no-name actors.
I hate you for doing this to me!
But that weakness strengthened their gimmick because unknowns wouldn't tip off moviegoers that the story wasn't true. The two young directors auditioned thousands of actors to get the authentic-looking student filmmakers. Then they did what millions of consumers were doing in the 90s. They used their credit cards to buy some cheap electronics.
We literally went to Circuit City and bought a $400 high-A camera, which would be their behind-the-scenes camera, and a CP16 16mm black and white.
I got the CP up.
Good. That's important, because that's what we're shooting on.
Paltry consumer equipment like that was anathema to high-tech Hollywood, but totally familiar to Generation X.
God bless them.
That cheap video camera had to be authentic and what they would have access to as filmmakers.
They built it into the storytelling device.
Could you just run it for a couple of feet for me so we can check that it's okay?
Sure.
I just want to hear it. This mag is okay.
It was justified, you know, her holding the camera, you know, the shakiness of the whole thing. It was forgiving because of what it was.
After a week of preparation,
That looks like a bunch of sticks tied together.
Sanchez and Myrick let their three actors loose to improvise in the woods outside the old Maryland village of Burkittsville.
We knew hour for hour where our actors were going to be at any one time, and all the while we were observing them.
They're discussing it right now. They're talking to them.
Anticipating the reality revolution to come, they wrote without writing, directed without directing.
These are the instructions that we give the actors. So whenever they get to a waypoint, they've got these instructions waiting for them, so they'll have the idea of what to do for that day's scenes or from one waypoint to another. Yeah, they have one for Heather, we've got one for Josh, and we have one for Michael.
They would put the notes in these little film cans, and the cool thing was you'd open up the can and say, Mike, you're really upset. Heather doesn't know what she's doing.
Do you see the waypoint flag?
Yes, we do.
Okay, you're doing good. Your notes are in that flag, and you just need to be at waypoint 2 at around 5 o'clock.
Over.
Okay, now the actors are coming to our entry waypoint, which is marked here at the end of the bridge.
So we were able to kind of steer them along this process via this directing note process, but at the same time allow them to be completely immersed in their character and kind of this big stage in the woods.
On our way to Coffin Rock, we are totally on track. I know exactly where we are now. Well, I don't have a tent for 3 people, you know, I'm not used to.
No,
I'm not usually traveling with 2 men, if you know what I'm saying.
We're at campsite 1. They're putting up the tent. And everything's going pretty well. They made pretty good time today.
Late each night, the directors skirted an ethical line that would soon become familiar to the creators of reality television.
Hello? We're sleeping.
They inserted themselves into the story by scaring the stranded actors in scenes that ended up in the film.
Hello?
It starts off as innocuous footsteps outside the tent. Oh, it could be anybody.
It's all around us. That is weird.
And then it progresses each night, become worse and worse and worse.
I ain't going down there.
Why not?
Because I'm not. I don't hear.
Because you're scared.
Where we wanted to end up is that every night they were just dreading nightfall.
Go, go!
By blending fiction with the very real pain of their actors, the filmmakers were signaling the start of a revolution.
I did feel like we were doing something special while we were filming it. I had that feeling inside, like, this is something different. Nobody's done this before.
The Blair Witch Project is the very first reality type show in movie format.
Desperate to hoard their minuscule budget, Myrick and Sanchez returned one of their cameras to Circuit City after filming and got their money back. They worked day jobs editing corporate videos and cut Blair Witch at night, spending 2 years and $35,000 to finish it. Then they did something revolutionary for the late 90s. Used their computers to promote the film with practically no money, just imagination, savvy, and internet know-how.
Ed had worked for a web company, so
He knew how to build websites.
So it's like, all right, let's build a website, and we slowly will, get people to come to the, to the website and see what's up.
One reason for the film's success, this website that went up about a year ago, telling the legend of the Blair Witch, creating a lot of buzz before the movie opened.
It was, a very cool website that kind of played into the idea that this is real.
Could be true, might not be. It was this hidden secret.
Sadly, I was one of those people that kind of thought it was real.
The Blair Witch website burst onto computer screens at the height of the internet craze in 1998, when the entire nation seemed mesmerized by the revolutionary potential of the web.
These days, the action isn't in silicon chips or other hardware, it's on the internet. Everybody wanting to launch the next Yahoo or eBay.com.
We were kind of riding that wave where movies and corporations in general are using the web for commerce.
It literally evolved, just like the web was evolving at the time.
Millions of novice surfers clicked onto their site and believed the frightening tale was true.
Hey, have your tickets ready, please. There's no readmittance.
The buzz turned Blair Witch into the sensation of the 1999 Sundance Film Festival.
We were 3 completely unknown actors, 2 totally unknown directors.
And we almost couldn't get into our own first screening. It was so packed.
It became the best story at Sundance that year. And that became the story worth telling because it's completely out of nowhere.
Mirroring the frenzy that was turning Gen X slackers into internet moguls, Artisan Entertainment bid $1 million for Myrick and Sanchez's $35,000 film. And the buzz grew deafening.
A lot of our fans at the time started generating their own websites.
It wasn't that there were stars that they were excited about. It wasn't that they'd read about the production of the movie. They'd just seen this website, and that was the thing that they were talking about.
Going beyond the internet buzz, Myrick and Sanchez produced a faux documentary
I'm a witch.
that premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel 2 days before the movie flew into the theaters. It made their invented Blair Witch seem all the more real.
The Sci-Fi Channel special had all this mythology that wasn't in the movie.
Burkittsville was actually founded on another old town by the name of Blair, but it died out because of a witch.
And millions and millions of people saw that who had never been on a website.
Coming up, how could the Blair Witch Project possibly live up to the unprecedented hype when this low-budget, no-frills movie with no-name actors hit theaters across the country?
The marketing and the spin and the attention we were getting were really starting to feel a little out of control.
I remember thinking a lot of people are going to be pissed off when this thing hits that it's not real.
Blair Witch leaps from the computer screen to the silver screen when Movies That Shook the World returns.
A new movie called The Blair Witch Project is scaring the heck out of New Yorkers, and they're loving it.
The Blair Witch Project premiered on July 14th, 1999 in a single New York City theater.
The amazing thing for us is, like, Ed and I, we just wanted to sell our movie.
And you don't often see something that is so low budget and so done on the fly and so guerrilla style that actually ends up here.
But the movie created an enormous flap nationwide.
New Yorkers, beware this film. It's pretty darn freaky.
I don't want to be alone tonight at all. When we showed up to the Angelica in New York, they had postings on the window in the box office of all the showings being sold out.
People would line up around the block, people would wait, people would get their tickets in advance.
I tried to go to the theaters, and it was sold out for 3 screenings in a row for that night. So the next day, I went and saw it in the morning.
I think it was people who had latched onto the film via the internet who decided, hey, I'm going to take me and my friends and go see this film that I've been following for months now.
When they finally got a seat at one of the sold-out screenings, some moviegoers quickly found they couldn't handle the film's shaky camera moves.
Go! This summer's hit horror movie, The Blair Witch Project, is turning more than just big profits. Theater managers say the jerky camera movements in the low-budget film are turning stomachs, making moviegoers sick.
People would go on dates to go see the Blair Witch Project, in which their girlfriend would vomit or run out the door very quickly.
The frenzy surrounding Blair Witch's premiere was only heightened by its marketing campaign. which included an exhibit of artifacts that continued the ruse that events portrayed in the film were frighteningly real.
Even as a journalist, when you talk to the studio about it, they would not really acknowledge that the movie was false. And we really don't know. You know, the footage was found. It wasn't something we put together in the editing room.
We were getting calls from the agents of the talent involved in the film, wanting to appear on Leno, wanting to appear on Letterman, and we were holding this back.
I'm a critic. I didn't know whether or not those people were still alive.
Heather Donahue plays the documentary's director. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, it's my pleasure.
When I saw Heather Donahue on a talk show after I had seen Blair Witch, I went, phew, wow, she's still alive.
I'm tuning into a radio station, and they're starting to talk about the responsibility of the distributor artisan in allowing a movie about basically a snuff film going out into the marketplace. And at that point I said, Eureka, I think we've done our job.
The use of the internet to sow public confusion harkened back to Orson Welles' famous War of the Worlds radio broadcast in 1938, which convinced some listeners that Martians were actually invading Earth.
Martians approach. Our army is wiped out. May be the last broadcast.
War of the Worlds was one of those great moments where they used a medium to tell a story that people should not believe for any reason whatsoever. We used the internet absolutely for that same. We had a new tool.
It was that moment in the internet's history, for instance, where you believe things on the internet were true even when they weren't.
The Blair Witch Project is unique. Shot in 8 days for less than $100,000, it is breaking box office records.
By its third week in release, Blair Witch had made $5 million in just a couple dozen theaters. And then Artisan unleashed the movie across America.
A low-budget thriller took the nation by storm over the weekend and became one of the surprise movie hits of the summer.
It was on 30 screens a few weeks ago and will be on 2,100 screens by this weekend.
The idea was to continue the buzz on the Blair Witch Project before we opened up on a massive scale on over 2,000 screens.
It was brilliant, brilliantly marketed. Smart, smart, smart. They deserved every penny they got.
I definitely think that if there were awards for marketing, I think that there should have been an award for the marketing of the Blair Witch Project.
As the box office take continued to soar, both Time and Newsweek put Blair Witch on their covers, using the movie to examine the phenomenal new power of the internet.
Just like, what the hell is going on here, man? This wasn't your grandmother's horror film.
One of Blair Witch's competitors that summer was The Haunting, the kind of big-budget horror movie that Myrick and Sanchez were rebelling against. But their low-tech, internet-driven indie blew away the Hollywood competition.
They threw every ghosty, every special effect, every sort of blooming monstrosity, every decapitation, and the movie was laughable.
Moviegoers around the world ended up paying nearly $250 million to see this $35,000 home movie. The film boasts one of the highest profit-to-cost ratios in Hollywood history.
It was a lot of fun, but it wasn't reality, you know, it was crazy.
That's how much we made in France.
It was quite humbling to see that thing explode the way it did. And to this day, I still can't believe the numbers. Can't really believe it.
Coming up, how Blair Witch blazed the trail for reality television.
Blair Witch was a precursor to Survivor, people somehow getting off on watching other people in peril.
The legacy of the Blair Witch Project, when movies that shook the world return.
Tell me a little I don't want to go cheesy. I want to really avoid any cheese. I want to present this in as straightforward a way as possible, and I think the legend is unsettling enough.
When the Blair Witch Project hit theaters in the summer of '99, many moviegoers were mesmerized by what seemed to be real-life experiences of terror and survival. The following year, a television show called Survivor capitalized on the same concept and became a pop culture sensation.
They weren't made with each other in mind, but they both touched a nerve
at the same time.
There were no witches to come get us on Survivor, but Mother Nature was there to kick our butt every second of the day.
Blair Witch was the first project to kind of tap into what became the reality TV generation. People somehow getting off on watching other people in peril.
Blair Witch's tremendous success also spread to documentaries, where filmmakers saw that they could make hit movies using inexpensive video cameras.
Now anybody who had a camera and a computer and an idea could actually make a movie, and that's an incredible ability.
I feel like it was an inspiration for pretty much anyone who had a vision and a camera to just go and do their own movie.
Hello, I'm Heather Donaldson, and I...
Blair Witch certainly inspired filmmakers to grab their cameras
I wiped my ass with the map!
Oh my God. Oh my f***ing God!
and make spoofs of the iconic horror film.
Witches in Jerketsville Forest. Reality or myth?
You had to make fun. The characters were so extreme in this film, and she was such a bitch that it was fun to play.
I mean, how many campfires have we all sat around when somebody's telling the story, shining the light up under their nostrils?
I want to give a shout out to my homegirl, Letitia. What up, Biatch?
But perhaps Blair Witch's most profound influence has been on mainstream Hollywood marketing. Myrick and Sanchez showed that movies could become household names solely through cheap internet publicity.
Blair Witch surely was one of the, kind of first movies, and independent movies, to really do that.
It was like the perfect cheap tool to get the film out there, to get the idea out there. Everybody kind of tries to capture that. I mean, if you look at the movie websites now, they're very creative.
In the end, the Blair Witch Project's success revealed the incredible power of internet marketing and began a 21st century entertainment revolution that gives anyone with a good idea the potential to craft a hit movie.
The conceit is brilliant and unique and original.
It's a movie that will definitely always be remembered as a catalyst for change.
They could go ahead and take some friends, take a video camera, and they all have a shot at getting a movie out there.
The kids took over the kingdom for a second and broke all the rules and actually made as much money as the big guys do. I mean, Blair Witch was an experimental film that, worked.
I'm very fortunate to have been a part of it and very proud of that. And if that's the only thing on my tombstone, I'm happy with that.
I'm scared to close my eyes.